Good morning, listeners. Thank you for joining me. Before we get started, we have to do the YouTubey things. Be sure to hit the like button on this video, the notification bell so that you know when I upload new videos. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It does let YouTube know that I'm here. I appreciate you all being so patient with me on these uploads. Without further ado, we will be continuing on in the Vixen Diaries with chapter 15. Beauty is the Beast. Before I get started, though, I do have to say it cracks me up how many times I have to redo these videos because I don't know how to edit. But anyway, that is not your problem. I just needed to say that. Anyhow, Beauty is the Beast. An early morning conversation with Academy Award winner Jamie Foxx set forth a series of events and provoked a slew of emotions that have changed me. It's amazing how the typical evening can turn into anything, and how you can walk into a situation oozing with confidence, then walk out of it unsure of everything you've ever known. It was 5 in the morning in Los Angeles, and I was leaving my favorite speakeasy. That's what I like to call it, but I believe the appropriate term for the establishment is private membership community. The party starts at around 1 in the morning and carries on until 5. The members of this special community are some of the most elite people in entertainment, friends of the elite, or in some cases, friends of the friends. The party is held every Saturday night, but members of this private membership community never know where the party will be held until they receive an email from the establishment announcing the location, which changes every weekend. In order to belong to this elite club of partygoers, one must pay a membership fee ranging anywhere from $650 to $4,000 a month. How much you pay depends on how many guests you want to bring and whether it is an individual or corporate sponsorship. In terms of star power, the admission is worth the terror. On any given Saturday, you could very well find yourself dancing shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Ryan Phillippe. At this particular gathering, I spied Jamie Foxx, Janet Jackson, her boyfriend Jermaine Dupri, Kevin Federline, Little John, and Ian Ziering of Beverly Hills 90210, and Now Dancing with the Stars fame. I'm not sure I pronounced his last name right, but y'all know. Anyhow, the social structure within the club that night could easily be broken down into 4 hierarchy groups. First, there were the celebrities, and they came in 3 different flavors: A, famous; B, trying to stay famous; or C, becoming famous. The way they all moved around each other was reminiscent of honeybees in a hive. Then there were the wallflowers. They were like extras in a movie. They were there just to be surrounded by the famous. These were the happy, smiling faces along the sidelines, people who were content just to be there at all. There were a few sourpusses mixed in, though most of them were women. They were looking at me and my friends and all the other celebrities with longing in their eyes and a hint of anger and jealousy behind them. Kevin Federline arrived surrounded by friends and bodyguards. His expression and body language spoke of Group C celebrity, someone in the process of becoming famous. These are the types who need to be seen. They come in with 40 of their closest friends and rarely sit down once inside. They tend to work the room, walking around and making eye contact with almost everyone, not because they're noticing you, but because they want you to notice them. Mostly they want to get close to the Group A celebrities as if their greater fame would rub off on them somehow, or they would shine brighter in that reflected light. I watched Kevin as he approached our group. He stood behind Jamie Foxx, waiting for the opportunity to shake hands with him. Jamie, however, was heavily into a debate regarding the Dallas Cowboys and seemed to notice no one outside the group. Jamie was one of the few people in the club that night who were actually Group A famous. Individuals in this category are more low key and tend to stay within their group for the most part. They most certainly do not go around trying to be noticed. These people get noticed even without trying. In fact, most of the time they have the opposite problem. They get noticed too much. After waiting a bit, K-Fed finally inched a bit closer and tapped Jamie on the shoulder. The interaction was extremely brief as Kevin offered his hand and said something like, "What's up, man?" Jamie partially turned toward Kevin, slapped his hand, grasped it, and brought him in for a split-second tap on the back. "Yeah, what's up?" Jamie replied. Then he quickly turned his attention back to the Cowboys debate and those of us in the group. Not surprisingly, Group A celebrities can be quite dismissive to fans and colleagues because they are more in need of time and space. This describes Jamie to a T that night. Jamie noticed something interesting about Janet Jackson and Jermaine Dupri that evening, and based on what he said, I took a closer look and tried to figure out what category those two fit into. It seems that here in the glory days of Beyonce and Jay-Z, Janet Jackson and Jermaine Dupri had slipped a notch. They've become Group B celebrities, trying to hang on and stay famous as a couple. There was a time when they were on the top of the heap. Group B celebs wait patiently, would wait pol- um, would wait politely for a chance to say hello to Janet, the way K-Fed waited for Jamie. No more. One thing about life in the public eye is that once you've gotten to the top, time is no longer on your side. One day you'll wake up and it'll be 20 years later. While you're riding high somewhere in the world, someone is being born who will take your place. Eventually, even Beyonce will have to step aside for a kid who's still in diapers today. Mm, wow. All this makes me think of my life and career, about the relationships I have now and the ones I wish to maintain. What I know for sure is that putting it all in perspective and keeping it there is going to be my ultimate test. I thought about which category I find myself in and which I would like to be in when it's all said and done. Being famous can be just as great as it can be heartbreaking. I find myself more reclusive and trying to safeguard as much of my private life as possible, generally without success. And though I am extremely proud of my career and my decision to open my former life and ways to the world, at times it is a burden. My life story becomes longer each time I am asked to tell it. I hear I hate to hear myself discussing the answers to the simplest question. These days when I am asked about how did you get to Hollywood, I answer obliquely, that's a long story, and try to avoid going into any further detail. If people persist, sometimes I give the real answer and watch what happens. What made you move to LA? My son's father used to beat me. I had to grab my infant son and run in the middle of the night. Los Angeles was the closest place where I had a friend, and you? That usually shuts them up for a while. Sometimes I wish for anonymity. I wish no one could see me, that they did not know my name. These are feelings I never thought I would have when I was dreaming this dream life as a child. I thought that I did it all, once I did all this, it would be different for me, that I would be completely different and would automatically be happy. That's not happening. I sometimes feel guilty for being successful. I am uncomfortable with it at times and downplay it to friends. I find myself purposely trying not to get excited when something great happens in my life and career. When I spend another week on the New York Times bestseller list or acquire another book or television deal. I would like to think that this is caused solely by humility, but no, part of it is the feeling of unworthiness. I have always felt, even when I have earned the accolades, inside there is always turmoil and doubt, but it's the outward appearances that make people tend to believe that all is well. It's the appearance of living well that makes others envy the lifestyle. As a woman, it is commonplace to hear, but you're so pretty, when confiding in friends or perfect strangers about hardships in your life. Beauty is like armor. A pretty face gives the impression that no harm has come to this heart, and the smile it projects implies happiness when in fact it only shelters heartache. I admitted many of, I admitted many of these feelings in Confessions. That book served an undeniably necessary purpose in my life and the lives of those who have been touched by it. I have no regret about the decision to open my life to the world, giving insight into a culture rarely understood by outsiders. Just a moment. However, the fact is, I have changed since the stories and confessions were a reality in my life. I have changed even more since I published those sordid accounts. Although I wouldn't write that book today, I can say that because I have written it, my life has changed for the better. It wasn't long before Jamie and I locked eyes during his Cowboys debate, and as he proclaimed why the team was the best in the league, I noticed that every few sentences he would reach out and touch my shoulder and speak directly to me. I'm not a big football fan, but I listened intently and pretended to I understood what he was talking about. I found him extremely captivating, and his touch made me want to know more about him. It was obvious he wanted to know more about me as well. After his heartfelt Cowboys rant, Jamie turned to me and said, "Damn, you're pretty." Then he turned to my friend Benny, who was standing right beside me, and said, "I don't know how you do it, man." I was ready to chime in with no, and with, "Oh no, we're just friends." I've known him for years, but Benny spoke right up and came to my rescue. "Me and Corinne? No, I know her too well to date this broad. But she's the truth, though. Corinne is one of the realest people I know. She's a good girl." Benny and I were not dating. That was the information Jamie was looking for when he asked the question. As Benny spoke, I could see Jamie's interest being sparked. He moved a few steps closer and behind me. We started swaying to the music, and Jamie placed his hands on my back and shoulders, gently yet effectively massaging them. He whispered in my ear, "You're tense. You should let me work these kinks out for you." When Jamie Foxx offers to massage your body at 4 in the morning after a bottle of champagne and 2 shots of Patron, it's hard to say no. In hindsight, I may have seemed naive on my part, but at that point, it did not occur to me that the encounter would go any further than a massage. There was something about Jamie that led me to believe that I could trust him to do only what he said he would. He has that sort of character, or at least around me he did. At the end of the evening, as the sun began to rise over Los Angeles, I found myself at Jamie's home along with several other friends. Over the next 4 hours from 5 until shortly after 9 in the morning, The two of us shared candid conversations about everything from the mundane to the marvelous. Sandwiched in between the two, there were also discussions about Corinne Steffens. Well, not me exactly, but Corinne Steffens, the video vixen. From the way he spoke about her, I could tell Jamie had no idea that she and I were one and the same. For the entire time we interacted that morning, he had no idea that the Corinne whose back he had so happily massaged was that Corinne. I was just a girl to him, just a face. He never once asked about what I did for a living or who I really was. Even though he didn't ask, I did what I've come to do with so all new people in my life. I supplied the clues so he could figure it out. As he began to put the pieces together, his eyes became big with surprise and his mouth dropped open. That's you? He said as he jumped from the sofa. You're that Corinne? It has been long said that pretty gets you in the door, but once you're in, you better have something smart to say to keep you in the room. This is an age-old tale that has proven true time and time again. Pretty on its own will never get you much of anything. Its rewards are only usually short-lived and shallow. It may get you the man of your desires, but it may keep him it may keep him from getting to know the person behind the face. It may get you into the business, but what side of it and at what cost? Pretty is as much a curse as a gift, especially if the woman has nothing of importance or intelligence to offer. A woman's body, looks, and mannerism can be sexy, but there is nothing sexier or more enduring than a woman who can spark physical and intellectual interest and desires. Although looks rarely stand on their own merit, intelligence almost always does. I knew the revelation that I was that Koran would be a pivotal moment in our morning, and would change the nature of my relationship with Jamie, but in what way I could not be sure. He paced the room for a few minutes, then scratched his back against the wall in an armoire like a bear. You know, after everything I've heard about you, I would have thought you were a real fucked up individual, he said, but you're not. You're cool as hell. I just had no idea you were that girl. That girl? It seems as if for the rest of my life I'll be that girl. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. But in the wee hours that morning, it became clear to me that being that girl in this room was making Jamie Foxx increasingly uncomfortable. Earlier in the evening, he was so free with his admissions and his feelings. He sat close to me and every so often would touch my shoulder and massage my neck. Now he stood clear across the room, staring at me as if I were the world's eighth wonder. Was he afraid of me because he didn't want to be a part of the next book? Even after he slowly made his way back to the sofa, he sat several inches away, still staring. You're a star, he said eventually. I mean, you're not just a girl anymore. People know you. You're famous. No, you're famous, I responded. You're the one with the Academy Award. I'm just a writer trying to make a living. You're a lot more than that, sweetie. You're Corinne Steffens. So yeah, he didn't want to end up in print. All of a sudden, the intimate conversation stopped, and the rest of the morning became about me. I felt like an alien. Being that Corinne set me apart from everyone else in the room. All of the questions of why and how of confessions made my head spin, and I began to retreat into my shell. I became very quiet and withdrawn. This was one of the moments in my life when I wished for invisibility, maybe a magic cloak like Harry Potter's. When he thought I was just a girl, Jamie, he was comfortable and unreserved with me. But once I became Corinne Steffens, author of Confessions of a Video Vixen, I became some sort of Pharaoh. All night we had let the good times roll. Now they came to a complete halt. I wanted to go home, and not just to my house, but home, the place where I'll belong for the rest of my life, the place where I'll be normal. In that instant, I didn't want to be me, and I wished I were just a girl. Though he were, though he was gracious and kind the entire time, I still felt like some sort of specimen in a petri dish, something to be marveled at, prodded, poked. My thoughts drifted back to a conversation I had with Mike Tyson not long before this incident. Mike described the conditions of his new job in Las Vegas. He was being paid to train in an enclosed plexiglass arena with patrons watching and cheering him on. He said he felt like an animal, like something under a microscope. As of this morning, I knew just how he felt. Mike quit that gig shortly after our conversation, and sometimes I want to quit too. For the next 2 or 3 days, I cried. Between my evening and early morning with Jamie, the turmoil with Bobby, and going back and forth with Ray J in the previous weeks, I had emotionally crashed and burned. I was a virtual wreck at the bottom of a deep blue, melancholy sea, drowning in who I was, wanting to be rescued by who I will be. The beautiful people in Hollywood hide ugly secrets. I am no different from them in that regard. From those who are famous to those who are trying to be famous, to those trying to remain famous, we are all keeping up appearances. We are all smiling and carrying on as if we were not all scared to death of who we are and who we will be, and even more terrified that people will forget who we once were. Years down the road, no one wants to be asked that dreaded question, didn't you used to be somebody? It's our job to be beautiful, and simultaneously it is our curse. I find myself searching for love and peace of mind, for home and relevance. I hope for the day when my pretty face is eclipsed by my accomplishments, and when my accomplishments don't scare the shit out of an Oscar winner. I hope for the day when the name Corinne Steffens stands alone, and Confessions of a Video Vixen is just the last entry in a long list of more important deeds. However, as optimistic as I am, even this seems ar- arduous, difficult, or tiring and punishing task. Wish me luck. Over the next several days, I lay in bed depressed. Jamie had no idea that he had made me cry all the way home, and in the days that followed, he had made me feel as if I could never be normal or that I would always scare people. It was shortly after 9 in the morning when I slid into my car and drove away from Jamie's home. It wasn't until I was getting into my car that Jamie admitted that though he had every intention of giving me the massage my body so desperately needed, it was all just a setup to have sex with me. But that was when I was just a girl, pretty girl to him. Once I turned into that Koran, it was another story. In this instance, I guess being me is good when it makes people not want to have sex with me. I told Jamie before I left that I would write this chapter, and he gave me the perfect title for it. Beauty is the Beast. Thanks, Jamie, for the title, and most of all, for the lesson. And thank you all for listening and for being so patient with me and with the uploads of these videos. I do have a full-time job that has been really hectic in these last few weeks, so that's why I haven't been able to upload, but I appreciate each and every one of you for still continuing to listen. For all the new subscribers, thank you for subscribing. We are getting really close to that 500 subscriber mark, and I am really looking forward to starting hiding in hip hop. But without further ado, thank you, and until next time.